Have you ever wondered what it would take to make home remodeling feel as simple as buying something online? That is exactly the question today's guest has been tackling with surprising momentum. He's the Chief Digital and AI Officer at West Shore Home. And from the moment we began chatting, I think it was clear that this wasn't going to be just another typical tech conversation. Because he brought a mix of curiosity, clarity, and a genuine obsession with fixing one of the most stressful parts of home ownership. So he's going to walk us through today how West Shore Home has quietly become one of the most tech-forward remodeling companies in the country, and doing that by leveraging agentic AI to remove all the uncertainty that typically comes with contractors, timelines, and budgets. And instead of customers waiting for vague updates, his team is using real-time data to give installation dates on an iPad before the consultant even leaves the house. I want to also get into the culture behind it all, because none of this works without people that are willing to try new things. So he will share how their CEO sparked an internal wave of AI enthusiasm by simply challenging every executive to experiment with the tech themselves, and how that led to departments pulling ideas into the AI team instead of resisting change. And for me, that is a refreshing story of innovation driven by people, data, and a clear mission to create certainty in a place where uncertainty has often been the norm. So as you listen today, think about this. What could your business unlock if certainty became a part of the product? As always, a quick thank you to our sponsor this month for backing all the shows on the Tech Talks network. And I'm currently producing more than 60 different interviews a month, and that takes a real collaboration. And I'm proud to work with partners who believe in open conversation about how technology can drive progress. If you've been listening to any podcast on Tech Talks network for a while now, you will know I'm always trying to find practical tools that make security feel less like a chore. Security that doesn't frustrate users or slow them down from doing their work. And Nord Layer is one of them. It's built for real businesses, the kind that have people working in multiple cities, countries, time zones, and networks. But best of all, it gives you enterprise-level security without the enterprise-level headache. Setup literally takes minutes, and it scales as your team grows, and it protects you against the kind of threats that never make the headlines until it's too late. And it's one of those rare tools that just works quietly in the background. So why not give your team the protection that they deserve? Visit nordlayer.com/techtalksdaily and use the coupon code TechDaily-28 and you'll even get 28% off your plan, part of a special Black Friday deal that we've got at the moment. So check that out and let me know your thoughts. But now, let's get today's guest on. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Neil. My name is Eppie Vojt. I'm the Chief Digital and AI Officer for West Shore Home. We are one of the nation's largest home remodeling companies with offices in 21 states, over 3,000 employees. We complete tens of thousands of home remodeling projects each year. I've built my career really deeply understanding the data within the organizations that I've worked at and identifying how its improved utilization can transform that organization's customer experience and ultimately the P&L. So the 6 years before West Shore Home, I spent at a company called Storable, which is a private equity-backed software as a service company that powers the majority of the nation's self-storage businesses. And then the 6 years before that were executive roles at Red Ventures, focused on digital customer acquisition and marketing technology. My focus at West Shore Home is on using applied artificial intelligence to make purchasing a home remodeling project as easy as buying something off of Amazon.
It is incredibly cool what you do here and phenomenal what you've achieved. So the first question I've got to ask you is, how have you successfully introduced AI into an industry that has been so slow to embrace digital transformation, or at least been accused of it in the past? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's a great question and a totally fair assessment of the industry. So I think the beauty for us is that we don't actually have to introduce it to the whole industry. We just need internal adoption, and that's been easy within our organization because artificial intelligence is really the next natural evolution in our company's progression. So it fits with our mission to bring happiness to every home. And because we look at it through that lens, it's been easy for us to say, well, gee, how can we transform the home remodeling experience? Are there ways that we can do things that would be faster, more convenient, more delightful for the homeowner? And then we just go ahead and pursue those. So a great example, we introduced a scheduling at the point of sale solution so that when our design consultants are in the home, and they meet with the homeowner and they go through and make all the design selections and have decided on the project that they want to pursue together. Um, in the background, we have agents that are pulling together all of the requisite information for us to know when we can install that project, like a firm commitment on when we can show up, and we'll have the right inventory in hand, the right installer skills. We'll have taken care of all of the permitting requirements. Everything is absolutely dialed in, and our design consultant can just turn their iPad to the customer and say, "Here, pick the date that you want." And what that does is it creates certainty for the homeowner. Right? So when we think about all of the bad experiences that are typically associated with the home remodeling process, um, they're largely scenarios where you lack certainty, right? So what's the quality of the company who's going to do the work? When are they going to be able to complete the installation? Are they going to be accurate on their cost estimation? And it's when you overrun the schedule, you overrun the cost, that's when you introduce anxiety and uncertainty into that experience. So our focus has been how can we utilize artificial intelligence to perform those agentic tasks so that we can confidently say to the customer, here's the date when we're going to be here. And we try to achieve that same sort of sense through every single step of the process so that they're always in the know of where their project stands and where it goes next.
And this year, there's been a huge buzz around all things agentic AI, but there are many businesses still trying to work out how could they implement it in their industry? How can they get a measurable impact from it? So, to bring to life how you're using it here, tell me more about how your agentic systems are automating tasks like scheduling, permitting, forecasting, and customer communication. Because you're using it for quite a wide range here, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. So the critical component for us is, and I was super fortunate when I came into the organization to have inherited a mature data posture. And I think the challenge that a lot of organizations have that impedes their ability to implement artificial intelligence solutions is that at the core of it, their data is a mess. And you can't supply AI with sufficient context if you don't have accessible and trusted data, and that's a huge, huge problem. Uh, so on our end, like I said, I came in and we already had a pretty robust, data architecture utilizing enterprise systems. So lots and lots of APIs available. And that ended up being probably the most critical component is that every single piece of data that we needed to access, we didn't have to go and build a brand new API. We didn't have to figure out what the trusted version of the data was. There's not a lot of finger pointing within the organization about what represents, the accurate or correct version of information or which fields are in use and those sorts of problems. So we're able to go out and reliably fetch the information that we need to represent the state of the project, and then from there we can just advance forward and really leverage large language models and machine learning um, in the ways that they're supposed to, right? So we've got highly trusted data. We have years and years and years of projects that we could backtest performance on. Um, and that got us to a point where we were able to build highly reliable solutions and confidently deploy them. I think it's a pretty powerful use case, and one that we've certainly seen a lot of positive response from the customer base. Like they're absolutely thrilled when they find out when we're in home and just complete a sale, that they're going to know the installation date that we have for them right out of the gate.
And for every business leader listening that are under increasing scrutiny for the value and the ROI and measurable impact that any tech project delivers, what kind of impact have you seen this technology having on things like your project timelines, and how are you able to move from sale to completion within days? Because it seems like it's certainly delivering on all levels here.
Yeah, the big thing for us has not really been to move the project timeline a ton. So we did a lot of work to already ensure that the project timeline could move forward very, very quickly. We do eliminate some potential delays in just the manual processing of data. So in order for us to be able to schedule at the point of sale, uh, we're basically condensing probably 3-4 days worth of work, where our teams would be doing project review, some inventory information, placing a purchase order, getting a response back from a vendor. uh, those steps get replaced, but that really only shaves potentially a couple of days off of the process, and then the rest of the components have already been streamlined because we built robust distribution centers. So we're cycle stocking a lot of inventory, uh, the most frequently purchased items for our projects, so that we can reduce the time between sale and installation out of the gate. And that's the probably the biggest unlock as far as timelines. The benefit that we get, uh, I would say, from leveraging, um, artificial intelligence in this capacity, is much more on the customer experience and just bringing that certainty to them, so that they know at the moment of purchase that they are confidently moving forward with the project. The business benefit that that gives us, I think, is interesting. So, number one, there's some cost savings there, where historically there's a team that has needed to reach out to those folks to schedule. We're able to shift them into other higher value tasks to support the customer. So we didn't view this as a cost savings opportunity exclusively, and we're not looking to reduce staff, but instead it's an opportunity for us to shift staff into a place where they can drive a bigger impact for the customer. Um, yeah, I would say that that's probably the biggest value there.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to hear you say that. And of course, it's easy to get distracted by technology or the latest solution, but I've seen many projects fail because they forget about the importance of the company culture and adoption within an organization. So how has your leadership cultivated this culture that is able to support rapid technology adoption and in-house innovation? Because that is often the most challenging part, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and there's actually a great story here where our CEO and founder, BJ Worzen, has been really intentional about uh, supporting the culture of the organization and making sure that the introduction of artificial intelligence is something that our departments want and don't feel like we're, sort of hoisting projects upon them, or changing their operations without them, understanding the implications. And one of the things that we did early on, as an executive team, was to meet together, and this was around the time that OpenAI introduced their deep research capability. And BJ challenged each executive to think about a problem within their business that might benefit from that functionality, and to do a little experiment where they just pull it together and they see, how does this help you, answer the question that you're pursuing, or do you think this would be beneficial in solving this problem? And we weren't looking to get to final solutions, but it was just to get folks hands on with the technology in some capacity, especially in functions where they might be less naturally inclined to start utilizing artificial intelligence on their own. And while using ChatGPT is not a particularly like robust application of artificial intelligence, the thing that it did was it got their wheels turning a little bit, and for them to be more excited about the technology and less fearful or suspicious of it. And then he did another thing that was important. So, in addition to challenging the teams to uh, execute those projects, he asked for us all to come back and to present them in our daily executive huddle. So every day he reserved, 5 to 10 minutes for someone to present their findings, what their experience was like, etc. Uh, what I found was, for the guy who's responsible for implementing artificial intelligence and sort of, invading other people's job functions, uh, this changed the dynamic drastically, where instead of me coming in and saying, "Hey, how about we do this thing to improve how you work?" we had all of the departments coming to me and saying, "Hey, this artificial intelligence thing is pretty neat. I would love it if we could solve XYZ problem within the department." And that just changes the whole tenor of the discussion. Um, and then our executive team, they're smart folks. They did a great thing too, and cascaded that exercise down into their organizations. And in doing so, that's what's allowed us to cultivate a list that's probably a country mile long of artificial intelligence use cases. And I can't grow my team fast enough to tackle all of the really valuable opportunities that we have to implement artificial intelligence within the organization.
And of course, every employee is going to react differently. Some are going to be excited, some are going to be cautious, others will be fearful and maybe even suspicious when adopting new technology. So, what measures did you put in place to ensure that all your employees knew that AI was about empowering them rather than replacing them?
So every time we introduce a project that we're undertaking with artificial intelligence, um, we're very focused on delivering the customer value message to the organization. So this is the reason why we're undertaking this. Here's how this supports the broader mission of bringing happiness to every home. Um, so in addition to that, I think we do a good job organizationally talking about, who we are and who we want to be. Um, our aspiration is to be America's most admired home remodeling brand, and sort of inherent in that are a few key components. Like America's means we need to have a national footprint, which we're expanding towards. Um, Home remodeling brand means we need to have likely additional product category coverage. So we're currently, in a few categories. We do bathrooms, windows, doors, full home flooring, but we expect that that's going to expand. And then most admired is interesting. It's by whom, and we think it's consumers and also employees. And so for us, there's an element there of clarity of uh, why we do things, a sense of trust from the employee base that we care about them and are looking out for them, and that this isn't just about how we squeeze some additional margin out of the business, um, but everything that we undertake is intended to deliver an up leveling of experience for our employees and for our customers. So, uh, I think the constant repetition of that, um, sort of banging that drum is really important within an organization to establish trust. And then I think when you couple that with our clarity around the reason that we're introducing each of these initiatives is to bring value to the customer, that's important. The last piece here, I think, is also interesting. So the scheduling at point of sale uh, AI use cases is one that has probably the biggest potential to be disruptive. Like we had a gigantic room full of people whose responsibility was to go through a lot of the processes that got automated when we introduced this, and rolling it out wholesale could be incredibly disruptive to them. So we were cognizant of that and produced a gradual rollout. Did two things for us. So one, there's always some degree of attrition that we experience within a position. So it allows the role to right size itself a little bit. And then the second component associated there was it gave us the ability to figure out what other high value things people could do and transition them into those roles. So we had a lot of optionality for how we introduced that. We did a branch by branch rollout, so that restricts it a little bit, and then we also reduced the product categories that were rolled out with that capability. So we had two different levers to sort of mitigate the amount of work that we were going to be taking away from the human team that was doing that, And that gave us the time to figure out how to shift them into other, like I said, high value roles.
And there's one phrase that I've heard repeated at many tech conferences around the world this year, and that is, if there's no data, there's no AI. So a question I've got to ask you is, how are you using data to improve operational accuracy, safety, and customer satisfaction across your projects? Because AI gets all the headlines, but data is where it's at too, right?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely fundamental. So the reality is, any like really useful implementation of a large language model is dependent on context.
Yeah.
So if you're not supplying it good data out of the gate, you're absolutely in trouble. So I noted earlier that I inherited a pretty robust data organization, and the organization thankfully had made some great technology choices that made my job a whole lot easier. But there's also a lot of opportunity for us to enhance our data, and we're continuing to pursue that. So when we think about data enrichment opportunities, so we get raw data from a consumer when they submit a lead, we know that we can enrich that information through third-party sources, and that can potentially provide additional value to our operations. So there's a lot of uh, it doesn't get the same hype and publicity these days as the large language models, but there's still a lot of like hardcore data science work to be done to enhance the efficiency of the business and to potentially improve our yield and margin opportunity as well. So uh, we're extensively focused on expanding our use of machine learning within the organization.
And I'm curious, looking back at the journey that you've been on here, what lessons or challenges from West Shore's AI implementation would you share with other industries that are still resistant to change or much earlier in their journey? Anything that you'd recommend to stop people making similar mistakes?
Sure, and I've had a chance to talk to lots of companies about this. So, within we've got a minority private equity investor, and I've talked to a bunch of their portfolio companies, and uh, basically the conversation that you and I just had right here around data is the number one thing. So,
Yeah.
get your data right. So the quality of your output is directly tied to that input context that you supply. If your data is not highly accurate, available, and trusted, you're going to struggle to make any progress with any sort of generative initiative that you introduce. Um, the next piece would be to think about introducing AI in augmentative ways, especially if it's directly customer facing. So, uh, as we think about digital voice agents, which we're working on right now, uh, our thought process on this is if there's a way where it feels like an upgrade to the customer, that's the place that you want to introduce it first. And you get your feet wet, so you've got a little bit more leeway for some of the challenges as you figure things out. So for us, that means after hours, right? Getting a digital voice agent is superior to leaving a voicemail, but it may not be superior to directly interacting with a human if you expected someone to pick up on the first ring at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? But if you decide you want to call us at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's an unreasonable expectation for someone to answer the phone. So if you get a voice agent, that's an upgrade. The other component here would be if you were going to get a dropped call or if you have a long hold time, you can give folks the opportunity to opt in to the AI-driven experience. And again, a great way to get some learning within the organization, get your feet wet, but also support the customer expectation and not make them feel like you're degrading their experience in order to increase your margin. That's just a terrible, terrible place to live. I'll throw one other one in here too, if
Yes.
you don't mind. I would say don't chase technology for technology's sake. I think there's a lot of pressure for organizations to show that they are doing AI, and the net of that is that folks will end up picking AI use cases that are not particularly compelling to their business outcome or
Mm.
aren't drastically favorably changing their experience with their customers. And I think if it's perfunctory, that's almost invariably going to be a disappointing experience. It needs to be something that integrates deeply into like the long-term outcomes and desires that you have for the business. And in doing so, it's easier to get, a groundswell of support from within the organization. But folks know if you're just trying to check the box, and they're not going to be enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, so true. And I can almost feel heads around the world nodding in agreement with you there. So much great advice. And we do find ourselves at that magical time of the year where have one eye on 2026, thinking about new opportunities, what we're going to do different, what we're going to achieve. So where do you see the greatest opportunity for AI to maybe even further transform your business and indeed your customers next year and beyond?
So for us, I think it's facilitating the ability for consumers to shop the way that they prefer. Right now, the experience that our customers go through is maybe a little bit more one size fits all, and it requires a sort of a guided experience where we send a design consultant out to their house to evaluate the project. And it makes sense because every home remodeling project is a little bit different. We need to know what's behind those walls and what risk is there on this, so that we don't end up promising a cost and discovering a bunch of overrun. So for us, that's been a critical component. But we think we can get to a conversation with customers earlier on through digital means that at least gives us, sort of a ballpark. And we hear from a lot of folks that that's what they want, is they want a little bit of pricing transparency before they invite someone into their home to evaluate the project. And right now, the answer is largely like, well, we need to see it in order to tell you how much it's going to cost. But if the customers can supply us with, a couple of pictures of their space and answer a few details through an automated process, we could probably get them to a place where they've got a ballpark. Um, and that's us leveraging photogrammetry and supplying some of the tools that we have. So we built a Hawkeye's a lidar scanning tool that our design consultants use. But if we extend that to the consumer, where they can scan their space, we get a digital twin of that location. That allows us to get into that pricing conversation in a different manner. And the ability for the consumer to take themselves back and forth between, the self-guided and the fully guided experience is one that we're really excited about. We think it's going to, open up our universe of potential buyers, and um, and certainly fulfill the mission of bringing happiness to every home. Since we're going to accommodate, the way that people really prefer to engage in commerce.
Well, I wish you the best of luck on your mission there. And for people listening, that anything we've mentioned today has really struck a chord with them. They want to find out more information, maybe carry on the conversation with you or your team. Where's the best starting point for all things West Shore Home?
Yeah, they can find us at westshorehome.com, and we'd love to help them out with a home remodeling project if they want to experience the joy that technology can bring into an experience that has otherwise lacked delight. We would be thrilled to support them in that way. Uh, and for sure, we do a good job of merchandising some of the technology that we utilize. So if they want to follow along and see how we're transforming that experience and leveraging technology, they'll be able to see. We post lots of videos that explain our process on the site as well, and they should be able to learn how the technology's influencing an industry that has been slow to adapt.
Well, I'll be adding links to everything, including a link to one of the videos there, just to bring to life what we're talking about. And I, for one, have learned so much about AI and AI in the home remodeling industry, and also how West Shore Home is bringing tech to an industry that, like we've said a few times here, historically has been resistant to digital transformation. And one of the things I always try and do on here is get people thinking differently about how technology is impacting areas that you don't associate with technology. So thank you for shining a light on this today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Neil.
I think conversations like this one today remind me that innovation often shines brightest in the places that we least expect. And Eppie took us right into the heart of the traditional industry and showed how practical AI can remove friction, reduce anxiety, and also bring a sense of control back to the customer. And his emphasis on trusted data, gradual rollouts, and keeping people at the centre, I think offers a roadmap that applies far beyond just remodelling of homes. And what I loved most about this mindset is how his team bring this to their work. And the goal is never to chase shiny tools. It's more about bringing clarity, comfort, and transparency to homeowners who simply just want to know what is happening with their project. So when you start from that point, the technology almost becomes a natural extension of the experience rather than something that's just bolted on later on. So as you head into your own week, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of Eppie's approach made you rethink how AI could serve customers rather than overwhelm them? As always, techtalksnetwork.com, you'll find all my episodes over there, over 9 different podcasts, and many ways of leaving me a message. But that is it for today. So thank you to my guests and thank you for listening. I'll speak with you all again tomorrow. Bye for now.